All right, guys. Today's lesson is going to be on annotations and characterization. Um, most of the background that you need is going to be in the slides that I presented, and Mr. Satsuda was kind enough to let me borrow his videos because mine decided to not work for whatever reason. So let's see if this works. Um, I am going to be doing a first read aloud for from when I was Puerto Rican. So let's get started. So first, about the author. Author, essayist, and screenwriter Esmeralda Santiago, born 1948, grew up as the oldest of 11 siblings. When she was 13, her family moved to New York City from Puerto Rico, and her mother supported the family on her own. Santiago went on to Harvard University and later founded an award winning film and media production company. A little bit of background. The High School of Performing Arts in New York City, now the Fiorello H. LaGuardia High School of Music and Art and Performing Arts, was the first public school in the nation for students with unique performing arts talents. It served as the inspiration for the 1980 movie Fame and its 2009 remake. Auditions for acceptance into the school are highly competitive and rigorous. On to the story. While Francisco was still alive, we had moved to Ellery Street. That meant I had to change schools, so Mommy walked me to PS 33, where I would attend ninth grade. The first week I was there, I was given a series of tests that showed that even though I couldn't speak English very well, I read and wrote at the 10th grade level. So they put me in 9-3 with the smart kids. One morning, Mr. Barone, a guidance counselor, called me to his office. He was short, with a big head and large hazel eyes under shapely eyebrows. His nose was long and round at the tip. He dressed in browns and yellows and often perched his tortoiseshell glasses on his forehead, as if he had another set of eyes up there. So, he said, he pushed his glasses up. What do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. He shuffled through some papers. Let's see here. You're 14, is that right? Yes, sir. And you've never thought about what you want to be. When I was very young, I wanted to be a Hibara. So, yep, Hivara. Okay. So, yeah, you get to make fun of me for butchering Spanish. So, that'll be fun for everyone. When I was older, I wanted to be a cartographer, then a topographer. But since we'd come to Brooklyn, I'd not thought about the future much. No, sir. He pulled his glasses down to where they belonged and shuffled through the papers again. Do you have any hobbies? I didn't know what he meant. Hobbies. Hobbies. He flailed his hands as if he were juggling. Things you like to do after school. Ah, yes. I tried to imagine what I did at home that might qualify as a hobby. I like to read. He seemed disappointed. Yes, we know that about you. He pulled out a paper and stared at it. One of the tests we gave you was an aptitude test. It tells us what kind of things you might be good at. The test showed that you would be good at helping people. Do you like to help people? I was afraid to contradict the test. Yes, sir. There's a high school where we can send you where you can study biology and chemistry, which will prepare you for a career in nursing. I screwed up my face. He consults the papers again. You would also do well in communications. Teaching, maybe? I remember Miss Brown standing in front of a classroom full of rowdy teenagers, some of them taller than she was. I don't like to teach. Mr. Barone pushed up his glasses again and leaned over the stack of papers on his desk. Why don't you think about it and get back to me? He said, closing the folder with my name across the top. He put his hand flat on it as if squeezing something out. You're a smart girl, Esmeralda. Let's try to get you into an academic school so that you have a shot at college. On the way home, I walked with another new ninth grader, Yolanda. She had been in New York for 3 years, but knew as little English as I did. We spoke in Spanglish, a combination of English and Spanish, in which we hopped from one language to the other depending on which word came first. Te pregunto, Mr. Barone, you know lo que quieres hacer when you grow up? Sí, pero I didn't know. ¿Y tú? Yo tampoco. He said, okay, I like to help people. Pero, uh, me no me gusta mucho la gente. So just quick aside, don't ever let anyone make fun of you if you can't read very well. I get paid to do this and I can't do it. So, all right. Anyway, when she heard me say I didn't like people much, Yolanda looked at me from the corner of her eye, waiting to become the exception. By the time I said it, she had dashed up the stairs of her building. She didn't wave as she ducked in, and the next day she wasn't friendly. I walked around the rest of the day in embarrassed isolation, knowing that somehow I had given myself away to the only friend I had made in junior high school 33. I had to either take back my words or live with the consequences of stating what was becoming the truth. I had never said that to anyone, not even to myself. It was an added weight, but I wasn't about to trade it for companionship. A few days later, Mr. Barone called me back to his office. Well, tiny green flecks burned around the black pupils of his hazel eyes. The night before, Mommy had called us into the living room. On the television, 50 of America's most beautiful girls paraded in ruffle tooled dresses before a tinsel waterfall. Aren't they lovely? Mommy murmured, as the girls, escorted by boys in uniform, floated by the camera, twirled, and disappeared behind a screen to the strains of a waltz and an announcer's dramatic voice calling their names, ages, and states. Mommy sat mesmerized through the whole pageant. I'd like to be a model, I said to Mr. Barone. He stared at me, pulled his glasses down from his forehead, looked at the papers inside the folder with my name on it, and glared. Model? His voice was gruff, as if he were more comfortable yelling at people than talking to them. I want to be on television. Oh, then you want to be an actress, he said, in a tone that said this was only a slight improvement over my first career choice. We stared at one another for a few seconds. He pushed his glasses up to his forehead again and reached for a book on the shelf in back of him. I only know of one school that trains actresses, but we've never sent them a student from here. Performing arts, the write up said, was an academic as opposed to a vocational public school that trains students wishing to pursue a career in theater, music, and dance. It says here that you have to audition. He stood up and held the book closer to the faint gray light coming from the narrow window on his high wall. Have you ever performed in front of an audience? I was announcer in my school show in Puerto Rico, I said, and I recite poetry. There, not here. He closed the book and held it against his chest. His right index finger pumped a rhythm on his lower lip. Let me call them and find out exactly what you need to do. Then we can talk some more. I left his office strangely happy, confident that something good had just happened, not knowing exactly what. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid. Every day I walked home from school repeating those words. The broad streets and sidewalks that had impressed me so on the first day we had on the first day we had arrived had become as familiar as the dirt road become as familiar as the dirt road from Cancun to the highway. Only my curiosity about the people who lived behind these walls ended where the facades of the building opened into dark hallways or locked doors. Nothing good, I imagined, could be happening inside if so many locks had to be breached to go in or step out. It was on these tense walks from home that I decided I had to get out of Brooklyn. Mommy had chosen this as our home, and just like every other time we'd moved, I'd had to go along with her because I was a child who had no choice. But I wasn't willing to go along with her on this one. How can people live like this? I shrieked once, desperate to run across a field, to feel grass under my feet instead of pavement. Like what? Mommy asked, looking around our apartment, the kitchen and living room, crisscrossed with sagging lines of drying diapers and bedclothes. Everyone on top of each other. No room to do anything. No air. Do you want to go back to Makun to live like savages with no electricity, no toilets? At least you could step outside every day without someone trying to kill you. Aye, Neki, stop exaggerating. I hate my life, I yelled. Then do something about it, she yelled back. Until Mr. Barone showed me the Listening for Performing Arts High School, I hadn't known what to do. The auditions are in less than a month. You have to learn a monologue, which you will perform in front of a panel. If you do well and your grades here are good, you might get into the school. All right, so that is as far as you have to get today with your annotating. Um, I'm going to be going live again at 10 o'clock. If you have any specific questions, I can annotate some of this with y'all, however y'all want to do it. So just let me know. I'll see you then.